The Discovery. The storm came without warning, rolling over the quiet coastal town with black clouds and thunder that shook windows. Yet it wasn't the lightning that frightened the villagers. It was the sudden crash from the sea, a sound so loud it made the earth tremble like a giant's fist had struck the shore. Fishermen ran to the cliffs and gasped, because in the distance, half buried under waves, lay a massive shape made of metal, scarred, burning, and clearly not of this world. At first, people thought it was an asteroid, but when the waves pulled back, they saw jagged edges, glowing lines, and strange symbols that shimmered even in the rain. A wreck, a ship, broken beyond repair, yet still alive in some way, humming faintly with power. The military came within hours, surrounding the coast, silencing the town, telling everyone it was a fallen satellite. But no one believed them. The thing was too large, too alien, too terrifying. Soldiers set up fences, scientists in white coats rushed in, cameras were banned, still the whispers spread. The universe had finally knocked on Earth's door. Inside the wreck, teams found corridors twisted like bones, melted walls, and shadows of things that had once been alive, but were now only ash. Some said they were aliens burned by their own engines. Others whispered of battles fought beyond the stars. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. The ship was not meant to fall here. A young engineer named Daniel was among the first allowed to step inside. His boots crunched on black dust as he stared at glowing wires that pulsed like veins. He touched the wall and felt heat, not normal heat, but something alive, like the wreck itself was still dreaming. He whispered under his breath, "This isn't broken, it's waiting." His words were ignored by the higher-ups who wanted only to strip and study. For months the wreck was torn apart piece by piece, loaded onto trucks and hidden in underground hangars. Yet something strange happened. Every night the power inside the alien machine seemed to repair itself. Panels that had been removed glowed again. Wires stretched out like roots. Engineers swore the ship was fighting to rebuild, and Daniel kept saying, "It wants to live." Then came the turning point. During one stormy night in the hangar, the wreck pulsed so violently that lights across the entire base went out. Alarms blared, and the half-burnt engines roared awake. Soldiers panicked, guns raised, but the ship did not attack. Instead, it released a sound, a low, mournful hum that shook bones and brought tears to eyes. Daniel realized it was calling, not to the stars, but to them, to humanity. The generals argued to destroy it, afraid it might bring more aliens. But Daniel fought back, standing before them in the command room. "This ship fell here for a reason," he said, his voice trembling yet firm. "We can learn from it, not just study, not just fear, but build, make it ours, make it stronger than before. This wreck is not the end of something, it's the beginning." Reluctantly, the leaders agreed to form a secret project, one that would take years and cost billions. The ship would not be dismantled. It would be reborn, piece by piece, metal by metal. Human hands and alien steel fused together, and Daniel was placed at the heart of it. The work began in hidden bunkers. Welders sparked fire across the alien hull. Human engineers laid cables beside alien veins. Scientists puzzled over the glowing core that refused to die. Slowly, a vision took shape. Not a broken carcass, but a warship, deadly, immense, designed with alien knowledge, yet driven by human determination. Outside the project, the world remained blind, believing the stormy night had swallowed a satellite. But whispers grew stronger, and Neil felt the weight of secrecy pressing on him. Still, each night when he walked past the glowing hull, he felt the hum under his skin. The ship seemed to recognize him, almost trust him. And yet, in the silence of the hangar, a darker truth lurked, hidden deep within the alien core. Files no one could yet translate, fragments of battles, screams of dying worlds, a warning that this ship was not abandoned by accident. It was left behind, maybe as a weapon, maybe as bait. But Daniel didn't know that yet. He only knew one thing. The day the wreck fell on Earth was the day humanity's fate changed forever, because the deadliest warship in the galaxy was no longer alien. Soon it would be human, the awakening. The underground hangar echoed with the constant sounds of welding, drilling, and hammers striking against alien metal. Sparks fell like showers of stars as men and women worked day and night, their sweat mixing with the cold glow of the ship. Yet no matter how many pieces they cut or repaired, the wreck seemed to respond, always healing faster than they expected. It was as if the ship itself wanted to rise again. Daniel stood at the edge of the construction platform, staring down at the massive hull, his hands shaking. Not from fear, but from awe. The ship was no longer just a wreck. Whole sections had been rebuilt, its blackened skin polished into something sharp and deadly. Human technology fused with alien design until it looked like no craft ever built before, a monster of steel. But it wasn't just the repairs that haunted Daniel. It was the whispers, faint at first, but growing clearer every week, when the hangar was silent, when the workers had left, and only the hum of the alien core remained. Daniel would hear it, words he couldn't understand, a language that pressed against his mind like a dream. He never told anyone, because he feared they would lock him away, but deep down he believed. The ship was speaking to him. Meanwhile, the generals grew impatient. They wanted results, weapons, power. They demanded the scientists activate the engines. But the engines were unlike anything human hands had touched before. They pulsed like living hearts, glowing with a strange blue fire that refused to die. The scientists warned them. If we pushed too hard, it could destroy the entire base. Yet the generals didn't care. They had already begun to imagine Earth commanding the skies with alien firepower. One night, under heavy guard, the first test began. The hangar lights dimmed as cables connected to the alien core. Screens flickered with unreadable symbols, and alarms screamed when the power surged beyond limits. Engineers panicked, shouting that they couldn't control it. The wreck roared awake with a thunder so loud it cracked the hangar ceiling. Engines flared, walls trembled, and soldiers raised their weapons believing the ship might attack, but it didn't. Instead, it lifted itself slightly, hovering above the platform for only 3 seconds before crashing back down. The floor shook, dust rose, and silence filled the air. No one breathed. Then Daniel whispered, "It's alive." And the words echoed in every mind. From that day, the project changed. No longer a study of alien technology, it became a mission to finish what the universe had started. Workers treated the ship not as scrap, but as something holy. Welders placed their hands on the metal before they worked. Engineers whispered prayers before connecting wires, because they all felt it too. The wreck wasn't dead, it was watching. Months passed, and the ship grew larger, stronger, darker, its frame stretching across the entire hangar, its weapons forming shapes humans could barely understand. Railguns bigger than buildings, missile bays hidden beneath armor that no torch could cut. The generals smiled with greedy eyes, but Daniel began to feel fear, because the whispers in his head were no longer soft. They were sharp, warning him, showing flashes of fire, of galaxies burning, of fleets torn apart by the very ship he was helping to rebuild. Late one evening, Daniel sat alone inside the cockpit, a place no one else dared to enter. The alien glass glowed faintly around him. Screens flickered with symbols that changed when he touched them. Then a voice filled his mind, clear and undeniable. "You are not the first," it said. Daniel gasped, his breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" he whispered. "Others have tried. Others have fallen. The war is not over," the voice answered. He stumbled back, terrified, yet also strangely calm, because part of him already knew. This ship had fought before, across the stars, against enemies no human could imagine, and it had lost. That was why it fell here, abandoned, broken, but not dead, never dead. The next morning, Daniel told the generals what he had heard. They laughed, calling it stress, exhaustion, madness. But when the ship pulsed violently in response, lights shattering, screens going black, silence filled the room, and no one laughed again. Soon, rumors spread across the base. Workers whispered that the ship had chosen Daniel, that he alone could hear it. Some feared him, Others respected him. But everyone knew one thing. Earth was no longer just building a warship. Earth was awakening a sleeping beast. The first true flight test was scheduled. The hangar roof prepared to open for the first time. Daniel stood before the glowing cockpit, sweat on his brow, the whispers pressing into his skull like fire. The generals ordered him to stay back, but the ship disagreed. Its engines would not start until Daniel placed his hand on the console, and when he did, the wreck roared alive, rising like a god from the earth. Outside, lightning struck the sky as the alien-human warship rose above the clouds for the first time, the world below blind to what was happening. The soldiers cheered, the generals smiled, and Daniel stood trembling, because he alone understood the truth. The ship was not just alive, it was remembering, and somewhere in the darkness of space, something else might have heard its call, the signal. The world above had no idea what was happening under their feet. While governments fought over borders, money, and politics, deep below the ground something far more dangerous was taking shape. The alien wreck was no longer a ruin. It had become something else, something powerful, a beast reborn. When the ship rose into the sky for its first flight, thunder rolled across the horizon, clouds split apart, and soldiers on the ground felt their hearts shake. Its massive shadow stretched for miles. Lights pulsed across its hull like veins glowing in the night. Every witness knew instantly, this was no human creation anymore. It was something beyond. Inside the cockpit, Daniel felt the ship as if it were part of his own body. His pulse matched the rhythm of its core. When he thought of moving, the ship tilted. When he thought of speed, the engines roared. It was not piloting. It was merging. He whispered under his breath, "We are one." And the ship answered with a low hum. But as it climbed higher into the clouds, something else happened. Screens flickered with strange signals, alien codes flashing across every monitor. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "It is calling," the voice inside him said. And in that moment he understood. The ship wasn't just alive. It was broadcasting, sending a message into the stars. Back at the base, panic spread. Generals shouted, "Shut it down, cut the power." But nothing worked. Cables melted, systems overloaded. The warship ignored all commands except Daniel's, and even he struggled to control it. "Stop," he begged, pressing his hands against the console. "Don't call them. Don't bring them here." But the ship pulsed harder, its engines screaming, and the signal burst outward like a screamicon. Ross the galaxy. Far above Earth, hidden satellites recorded strange disturbances, signals that no human technology could explain, energy waves bending space itself, though no civilian scientist knew the truth. The military did, and they were terrified, because if something out there heard the call, then Earth was no longer hidden. For 3 days, the warship remained in the hangar, silent but glowing, its energy pulsing as if waiting for a reply. Daniel barely slept, his dreams filled with fire, alien fleets, and dying stars. He woke each night drenched in sweat, hearing the same whisper over and over, "They are coming." The generals grew restless. Some argued to destroy the ship before it brought danger. Others argued it was already too late. The project leaders clung to Daniel, demanding he keep control, but he knew better. "You don't control it," he told them. "It allows you to believe you do." They ignored him, but the truth lingered in the air. Then, one evening, the reply came. It was faint at first, a ripple across the void. Screens across the base lit up with unknown symbols. Alarms rang, and the warship shuddered, lifting itself without command, its engines bursting to life. Daniel ran inside the cockpit as soldiers screamed, and the moment his hand touched the console, the ship steadied, but the message still burned inside his skull. Enemy fleets detected. Survival protocol engaged. Daniel gasped. "What enemy? Who's coming?" But the voice gave no comfort, only fragments of memory. Battles fought in places with no names, star systems burning, alien commanders falling silent as this very ship tore them apart. And then one word, repeated over and over. Hunters. The generals demanded answers, But Daniel could only tell them the little he understood. "They're not just coming for the ship," he said, his voice shaking. "They're coming for us, because the wreck was never just a Mac. Hein, it was a weapon built to fight them, and now we've woken it up." The base shifted into chaos. Soldiers fortified positions, scientists scrambled to decode the incoming signals, and politicians demanded secrecy. The world could not know, not yet. Panic would tear humanity apart. But still the ship pulsed, its glow growing brighter, as if eager, as if preparing. That night, Daniel stood before the massive hull, his reflection staring back at him in the black metal, and he realized something terrifying. The ship was not afraid. It wanted the hunters to come. It wanted to fight again. Earth had not forged a weapon. Earth had unleashed one, and miles above, beyond human eyes, far in the cold reaches of space, something stirred. Faint lights flickered in the darkness. Shapes moved between the stars. And slowly, ever so slowly, an ancient enemy turned its gaze toward Earth. Following the call, the deadliest warship in the galaxy had risen again, and now the galaxy knew where to find it. The hunters draw near. The first signs came quietly, almost too quiet to notice. A flicker on the long-range satellites, a distortion in deep space scans, small enough for the generals to dismiss. But Daniel knew better. He could feel it through the ship. Every time the monitors flashed, the warship pulsed with a low growl, like a predator smelling blood. Earth's leaders met in secret rooms, voices raised, fists slamming on polished tables. Some wanted to hide the truth, others wanted to prepare, but all of them feared the same thing. Humanity was no longer invisible. Someone out there was coming, and they weren't coming to talk. Daniel stayed close to the ship, the whispers louder than ever. Sometimes he woke in the middle of the night, gasping, with images in his head that weren't his own. Massive fleets stretching across the stars, claws tearing through steel, cities burning on worlds he had never seen, and always the same word: hunters. The scientists worked desperately to understand, translating the alien code flashing across the warship's systems, piecing together fragments of its memory. They discovered terrifying truths. The ship had once belonged to an ancient fleet, a coalition of species united to fight the hunters. They had poured all their knowledge into this one weapon, but even it had fallen, crippled and abandoned, left to drift until it crashed on Earth. "What happens if they come here?" one scientist whispered, her face pale as she studied the alien logs. Daniel answered without hesitation, his voice low and steady. "Then Earth becomes the next battlefield." The generals didn't want to wait. They ordered drills, secret construction of bunkers, and even rushed nuclear warheads to hidden silos. But Daniel knew it wouldn't matter. Humanity had nothing that could stand against what was coming, nothing, except the warship. The first hunter signal broke through 2 weeks later, a deep pulse across the void that rattled every system on Earth's satellites. Radio towers screamed with static, screens across the base went black, then filled with a single symbol, sharp, curved, like a claw mark etched into the air. Daniel's skin froze when he saw it, because he had already seen that shape in his dreams. "They found us," he whispered. The hangar went silent. Every soldier, every scientist, every general staring at the glowing mark. Humanity's first message from the stars. And it wasn't peace. It was a warning. That night, Daniel sat inside the cockpit, his hand resting on the alien console. The whispers filled his skull like thunder. "They come, they come, they come." The ship pulsed, its core glowing brighter than ever. And for the first time, Daniel understood. It wasn't afraid, it was eager. The warship wanted to fight. The next day, the generals gave the order: prepare the ship for battle. Set every weapon, ready every system. Earth would not bow without resistance. Welders and engineers rushed to finish the last repairs. Railguns powered up. Missile bays opened for the first time, and human pilots were trained in secret to assist Daniel. Though deep down everyone knew, only he could truly command it. When the first weapon test fired, the mountains shook. A beam of energy cut across the desert, carving a canyon into stone as if the earth were paper. Soldiers who witnessed it stood in stunned silence. Some cheered, others prayed, but all knew the truth. This ship was beyond human science. Still, Daniel felt the fear grow inside him, because he could sense more than the others. Every day the hunters drew closer, their presence pressing against his mind, shadows moving in the darkness of space, and the ship kept whispering, "Soon." Finally, the telescopes caught them, faint at first, like dust against the stars, but then undeniable, dozens of ships, sleek and dark, moving faster than anything humans had ever seen. They were coming straight for Earth. Panic erupted in the war room, politicians shouting, generals arguing, scientists begging for time. But time had already run out. The hunters would reach Earth in weeks, maybe days. Daniel stood among them, his voice steady while theirs cracked with fear. "We don't have a choice," he said. "This ship is our only chance, and it's ready." But as he turned back to the hangar, staring up at the warship glowing like a beast in its cage, he felt something darker. A truth he hadn't told anyone. The ship wasn't just preparing to defend Earth. It was preparing to finish a war it had already started long ago. And Daniel feared that humanity wasn't the master of this weapon. Humanity was only the trigger. Outside, the night sky shimmered with falling stars. But they weren't stars. They were scouts, hunter drones slipping into Earth's orbit, silent and unseen, the first shadow of the storm to come. And deep within the warship's core, the hum grew louder, rising into a roar, its weapons shifting into place, its systems alive with fire, as if the ship itself had been waiting for this very moment. Earth was no longer hidden. The hunters were almost here, and the deadliest warship in the galaxy was ready to meet them. The battle for Earth. The first hunter ship appeared in the sky without warning, tearing through orbit like a burning blade, its black hull covered in scars, its weapons glowing red. The world below panicked as telescopes streamed images, news channels filled with fear, but only a few knew the truth. The hunters had come not for peace, but for slaughter. The warship waited in its underground hangar, humming like a beast in chains. Soldiers rushed around it, shouting orders, loading weapons, but the ship didn't move until Daniel stepped inside the cockpit. The moment his hand touched the console, the engines roared, shaking the mountain above, and the generals gave the order, "Launch it." The hangar roof split open, dust and rock falling as the warship rose into the night sky, its hull glowing with alien light. The earth trembled beneath it. Cities below stared in shock as a shadow larger than any plane or rocket soared upward. Not a wreck anymore, but something alive. The hunters saw it too. Their ships shifted formation, hundreds of them, sleek and sharp, moving like predators circling prey. The first wave fired without warning. Beams of red energy streaked across the darkness. But the warship answered. Its railguns thundered, hurling bolts that split the sky, tearing the first hunter vessel in half, its burning wreck falling into the ocean. The people of Earth cheered as they watched from screens and rooftops. For the first time, humanity had struck back against the unknown. But Daniel wasn't cheering. His head throbbed with the ship's whispers, visions of endless war filling his skull. More will come. They never stop. They never stop. The hunters swarmed, dozens firing at once, missiles raining down, beams cutting through the atmosphere. Earth's defenses cracked, satellites shattered, but the warship held strong. Its armor absorbing blows no human metal could survive, its weapons spitting fire and thunder, every strike carving hunter ships apart. Inside the cockpit, Daniel's hands shook, not because of fear, but because he wasn't sure if he was controlling the ship anymore, or if it was controlling him. Every movement felt natural, too natural, as if the warship knew the battle before it began, like it had fought these enemies 1,000 times before. The generals shouted orders through the comms, but Daniel barely heard them, his mind drowning in the ship's voice. "We are the last. We cannot fail. Fight. Fight until none remain." The words burned like fire, yet he obeyed. The warship surged forward, tearing through the hunters with fury. But then the flagship arrived, a vessel so large it blocked the stars, its hull covered in jagged spines, its weapons glowing brighter than the sun. It moved slowly, like a predator certain of its kill, and when it fired, the sky itself cracked. A beam of power struck the warship, sending Daniel crashing against the seat. Alarms blared, systems flickered, armor shattered. For a moment it seemed over. The deadliest warship broken again, the hunters closing in for the kill, Earth holding its breath. But Daniel pressed his hand against the console, blood running down his arm, and whispered, "Not this time." The ship pulsed, its core flaring brighter than ever, the whispers rising into a roar. "We will not fall again." With a scream of engines, the warship charged, missiles streaking, cannons firing, cutting through hunter lines. It slammed straight into the flagship. Weapons blazing at point-blank range, the two giants locked in death, fire and metal tearing across the sky. The hunters fought back with savage fury, tearing pieces from the warship, but Daniel felt no fear, only resolve. His voice low as he whispered, "If Earth must survive, then I'll burn with you." The ship answered, its core exploding with power, a final weapon hidden deep inside, not human, not alien, but something greater. The warship unleashed it, a storm of energy so bright it lit the night like a second sun. The flagship split apart, its fragments burning as they fell, the hunter fleet shattered, the survivors scattering back into the void, fleeing, broken, beaten. Silence followed, broken only by cheers across Earth, cities erupting, voices shouting, tears falling. Humanity had faced the impossible and lived. But inside the cockpit, Daniel slumped against the console, the ship's glow fading, smoke filling the chamber, the whispers soft now, almost gentle. "Well-fought, warrior. Now rest." Soldiers found the warship drifting, scarred but alive, floating above the earth like a guardian. Daniel unconscious but breathing, his hand still pressed against the console. Weeks later, the world would learn the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough, that humanity had fought off an invasion, that Earth was no longer helpless, and that somewhere in the stars, enemies still waited. The warship remained in orbit, silent, watching, a black shadow against the blue of the Earth. The people called it many names: protector, guardian, ghost. But Daniel knew the truth. It was none of those. It was something older, something waiting for the next battle. And deep inside, in the silent hum of its core, the whispers remained. This war is not over. It has only begun.